Hey, friends, this is Dan and Stephanie Burke. You're watching Behind the Scenes Divine Intimacy Radio. It's a blessing to be able to live stream to you out on EWTN, EWTN's Facebook page, and other places. Before we jump into the show, I wanted to tell you about a couple of courses we have coming up at the Avila Institute. So if you want to grow spiritually and really be deeply blessed, we have amazing courses. I wish I had all the time to take all of our courses myself. But it's called one is called The Christian Meaning of Suffering, according to St. John Paul II. It's a brand new course. It's exploring his encyclical Salvifici Doloris, and just some reflections on his extraordinary life and what does it mean to be human? What are the sources of morality? I mean, it's really going to be a great course. Dr. Simone Ritz-Kalla, and I'm apologize to her if I messed up her name. The other one is also I'm very excited about is The Mystery of Knowing and the Progress of the Soul in St. Thomas Aquinas. So that one is going to be about how does St. Thomas Aquinas' philosophy and theology teach us about the nature of the human soul, the faith, how do we come to know God? I mean, very cool stuff. Dr. David Arias, who's a Thomistic scholar, and a very good professor, both not boring. So I'm pretty excited about those. So if you want to learn more, head out to avila-institute.org, avila-institute.org. I also want to say one last thing, and then we'll get moving. And that is EWTN's religious catalog. They have a group of scholars in the theology department of EWTN that vets every book they have. So if you're ever wondering, how do I find a good book on this, that, or the other, you're really not going to go wrong heading to EWTN's religious catalog. As many of you know, I worked at EWTN for years and years and was deeply blessed by my time there. But they take the faith seriously, and they only carry books that are faithful from publishers like Sophia Institute Press and Ignatius Press, that sort of thing. So, all right, ready to get into the show?
Yeah, and I just wanted to mention that another place to get faithful, authentic teaching, blogs, videos, everything that we offer is to subscribe to SpiritualDirection.com.
Right.
So make sure you head out to that site so that we can always stay in touch with you, because it's kind of it's touchy on the internet. Sometimes Facebook, you see things, sometimes you don't. Sometimes there's difficulty getting the message out there. So make sure you stay in touch with us, connect with us there, and subscribe to SpiritualDirection.com.
You said that very nicely. I'll just say this a little more forcefully. The cancel culture is coming after Christians. Ads about the Eucharist on Facebook, ads about, Lent, things like that, books on Amazon. And as Stephanie said, if you really want to stay in touch with us and never lose touch with us, subscribe to SpiritualDirection.com, and you can get all of our past shows and everything we've done on EWTN's out there as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Shall we get going?
Okay.
On your mark, get set, go. This is Dan and Stephanie Burke. Welcome to Divine Intimacy Radio, your radio haven of rest,
your hermitage of the heart,
your monastery of the mind, where we lift our hearts and minds to heaven to draw on the wisdom of the saints, that we might understand how to navigate this very challenging life into eternity.
Right.
Are you up for that?
Yeah. And, I love that line that I get to say in that is lifting our hearts to heaven.
Right.
Which is the secret of the interior life. It's also the theme of our show today.
It is. Lifting hearts to heaven.
Right.
All right. So it's Q&A day. So we've got a lot of great questions. In fact, we have them from our community ask the questions. So we have folks at apostoliva.org, and we put it out there, and we got a lot of great questions from them.
Good.
They're good folks. So this one's from Jim. He says, I'm approaching a point in my prayer life where I think it's more about tasks to complete rather than a relationship to be nurtured. Any advice on how to know when a tipping point has been reached in this regard?
That's interesting. I think anybody that takes their prayer life seriously, that that makes that committed time of sacred time, sacred space, sacred attention, and just spending time in mental prayer, there does seem to come moments where you kind of say, I feel like I'm tasking, or, maybe I'm doing too many vocal prayers or whatever. It starts to feel a little utilitarian, I guess, is the word for it. And I think that's always an invitation. We talk about that a lot, is that trials, even when they're little like that, where it seems a little bigger than just little because it hurts a little bit. And it's like, what's going on? Why am I feeling this in prayer? Is an invitation to a deeper call from the Lord. What do you think?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think you're on to something there. It's, we don't get to ask a lot of background questions or any, to Jim about what he means by what he says. But I think this comes more easily when you're doing a lot of vocal prayer, or, which are prayers that somebody else has written, a little more on the structured side. So I think it fades in a good way when we're practicing Lectio Divina, in the sense of just having a conversation with God, focused on him, not getting through stuff. We're recording this show. We usually don't say what time of the year it is, but we're recording it during Lent, and we have a chapel behind the studio, and we do the Stations of the Cross Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And I've minimized the vocal prayers in the Stations of the Cross, because I want folks to spend time on the reflections from St. Alphonsus Liguori, talking to Jesus, thinking about Jesus' suffering, relating to him, engaging with him at a more personal level, rather than just, okay, I kneel, I say the words, I get up, I recite the Our Father, then I sing the transit, it's like, okay, this is way too active.
Yeah.
And I think that is what tends to break down the more personal kind of prayer. Like if you and I only interacted during the day on tasks,
or on an intellectual level.
Yeah. Right. Rather than, how's your heart? Hey, I'm really struggling, or would you pray for me? Or I really love this beautiful thing that I read this morning in prayer.
Or I love you.
Yeah. So it may be just a moving away. There's a lot of other reasons a person could come to this. It could be it's a desert experience, could be contemplative aridity if they've been practicing mental prayer for years and doing very well. But I think that's good enough for the moment.
Yeah, I think, and just to wrap this up on this question, but one of the things that's important is to check yourself against the relationship.
Yeah.
Is my prayer relational with the Lord? Is this a place of intimacy that I'm communicating with him, speaking to him, or listening to him from the heart? Or is it words? And that's a shift. That's a shift from the head to the heart. And it's also can be a choice that we make.
Yeah, in terms of how devoted we are. And well, and also duty is not a bad thing. Sometimes people think, I go to prayer, it's dry and whatever. It's like, well, okay, you're human. That means you're going to some days feel great, some days not feel so great. And some days you're tired. Some days you're perfectly attentive to the Lord. Other days you're not.
He loves you anyway.
Right. He does love you anyway. Right. And and if you just show up, just showing up is, one of the most foundational bits of advice you can offer to help people make progress in prayer, and get out of the illusion that how you feel is the primary determinant of your success in prayer.
Yeah.
Right. And that may be an issue here too.
Yeah, that's huge.
How you feel doesn't matter.
Right.
Ever. Right. Almost. Right.
Right. If it's a surge of love, then it certainly matters. If it's a surge of faith and hope, then it matters. But if it's a contrary feeling that, I don't feel good, I don't want to pray, I don't have desire, those things, it only matters in the realm of, am I in desolation?
Yeah.
Is this something that I need to fight and renounce in his name, and then get back on track? Right.
Yeah. And if you're experiencing desolation or sloth, the answer is, fight.
Yeah.
Just, don't be a wimp. Just keep rolling. and keep drawing near to God, and you'll have better days in the future. So be encouraged. He does love you, Jim. And I'm blessed that you are working so hard at prayer. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
All right. This is Dan and Stephanie Burke with Divine Intimacy Radio, and we're doing Q&A today on prayer. The next question is got some relationship to it, and that is, it's from Jeanette. She asked a handful of questions, but one that relates to what Jim is asking is, describe prayer from the heart.
Mm. Wow. Okay. Describe prayer from the heart. This is one way I would describe it, because I think there's a million ways that you can describe it, right?
Yeah.
But as so for the moms out there, or grandmas, right? That moment when your child or your grandchild runs to you and just runs to you, and they're all aglow, and their face is like Mima or Grandma or Mama, whatever it is, and they're running towards you, and they want to be held by you, and they want to connect with you. That feeling, that's prayer from the heart.
Yeah.
That's this longing, joy, maybe even sorrow because you haven't seen them in a while, or your heart just aches to be with them.
Yeah.
And you cannot get close enough. That's prayer from the heart. It can be a simple glance towards heaven of, Lord, I long for you. Or I had a moment the other day. I was aching for a family member that's struggling, that's kind of in a lost state right now, not doing great. And my prayer was, and it was an interesting prayer, and it came out of nowhere. And the prayer was, Lord, make sure this person knows that I love them.
Yeah.
And it was exquisite. It was such a beautiful, tender prayer. And I got a response like, don't worry, don't worry.
That brings to mind something you did for me even recently. In a marriage, you can get, into a routine, right? And you can say, I love you. And we do that regularly. The other day, you said, I love you. And maybe you can describe why you said that, but it affected me. And it got in more deeply because I realized you were wanting to, and you really wanted to break through the routine. I didn't ask you why you did it, so maybe you could talk about it, but there was something there about your deliberateness.
Yeah. Well, it's do you understand how much? Do you understand that these aren't just words? Do you understand that this is an ache of the heart? And that I want you to understand that you mean everything to me, right? That is also prayer of the heart, to the Lord. I love you.
Right.
Not just I love you, not just thanks for everything good you do for me, but thank you, from your soul, really,
I think that kind of prayer, and I hope, you can correct. I think it's easier for women because women are more better connected with, the entirety of their being is more integrated, whereas men tend to be more compartmentalized. And it did take me a long time as a Catholic, especially in mystical tradition, which is where I spend all my time, dealing with the romance language in terms of prayer. And because when you have corrupted romance, and then you go to holy romance in marriage or holy romance in relationship with God, but the way you deal with it is practice.
Yeah.
You do it a lot. One of the reasons I love St. Alphonsus Liguori's Stations of the Cross is he's effusive toward God in a very tender way. I love you, Jesus, my love.
My innocent Jesus.
Yeah.
My tortured Jesus, right? It's this beautiful language that helps us understand you're important to me, you're precious to me.
Yeah. And for guys, you just have to do it. I remember when I first prayed Liguri's Stations of the Cross years and years ago, I was torn a bit about it because I'm very much oriented to where if I don't believe something, I can't say it. If it's not real, I can't deal with it. It's not, I have other weaknesses, but that's not one. And so I would pray it and go, Lord, please help me to actually believe this. Mm-hmm. And eventually I did. And, he's the one that draws us to him first. He's the one that gives us the grace to respond to him. He's the one that, so as you live the reality that you desire and you orient yourself to God, then he will bring about that deeper kind of heartfelt love and prayer.
Yeah. And isn't it even really that what he says about, I will take their hearts of stone and give them hearts of flesh.
Right.
That's what it is.
I think that verse was meant for men.
I think so, because, unless women are, in sin.
Right.
But I think that's what that is. That's the difference. Is your heart made of stone or is it made of flesh?
Cool. So when we get back from the break, we're going to continue to talk about prayer and keep answering your questions that have come in on prayer. And the next question that we'll talk about when we get back from the break is, when is prayer not really prayer? Which is a good question related to Jim's question, Jeanette's first question. I think it all kind of feeds in. So
okay,
we'll be right back. 13, what do you want to go to?
Like 12:30. And we have one live question that you may want to answer at the end if you have time.
What is it?
It is, does prayer require words? And I can actually, if you decide you want to do it after the show.
No, let's do this. Let's do, well, are you, okay.
I can just turn my laptop around so you guys can see it.
I remember the question.
Yeah.
That's got it.
Do you want to do it after, or you want to do it during?
Well, why don't we answer this question, then we'll do that one.
Right next. So he'll pop that on the screen.
Finish this.
After this one.
Yeah.
Does that work?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Okay. On your mark, set, go. Welcome back to Divine Intimacy Radio. This is Dan and Stephanie Burke talking about prayer and prayer of the heart and difficulties in prayer, and great questions we have coming in. So Jeanette also asked, when is prayer not really prayer? And just to set this up, in my mind, two things come to mind, but I want you to go first, is Jesus, when he taught about prayer, and then St. Teresa of Avila had something to say about that as well. So
yeah. So Jesus says, do not babble like the pagans.
Okay. So you hit on something really important, because there's a lot of junk in the church today about non-Christian Eastern spirituality, Buddhism, mindfulness, just absolute nonsense. Jesus doesn't need Buddha's a created being. Jesus created him.
Yeah. He doesn't need Buddha.
Right. To help you to pray.
Right.
You don't need non-Christian Eastern spirituality to help you to pray. And in fact, Jesus spoke against using prayer that is not in accord with the tradition. He said, don't pray like the pagans pray.
Right.
And then he said, pray like this. So exactly right. What else comes to mind for you? When else is prayer not really prayer?
Prayer is, if we are not connected to our prayer, and I'm not talking about mindfulness, but if, the Lord says, love the Lord with all your heart, your mind, your soul, your strength, with all that you are. That's prayer.
Right.
When we engage, all of us, because we cannot separate our soul from our body.
Yeah.
If they're separated, that's death. Right. So we are soul and body. So all of our feelings, emotions, everything, we should, to the best of our ability, engage all of those in our prayer. That doesn't mean we're dancing around, even though I have prayed as I've danced. But it's a using all that I am, so that I'm giving him all that I am. It's very attentive. So I don't know, where are you going with this?
Well, I think there's this phrase that Catholics use: have you said your prayers?
Oh, yeah.
And my better question is, have you prayed your prayers?
Yeah.
St. Teresa of Avila said that if you are not aware of to whom it is that you're speaking and who you are, you're not praying.
Right.
And I think mostly I see this when people are praying the rosary at this blazing speed. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou, with the blessed for the will do. You know, it's like it's not all one word, folks, right? So you and
I don't know how people do that. I honestly don't. I can't even pronounce words that fast. And it's just like, that's not prayer.
it's
I
not
know you intend it to be, and I know that you're checking off a list somewhere that you believe that's a prayer. It's not a prayer. It's not a prayer when you're working against the clock,
right.
and it's just spitting it out. So I'm sorry that it just makes me laugh because I think of one particular person that I heard pray that one time before a mass, and
It
I
sounded
thought
like a robot.
it did. It
Yeah.
was, yeah. So that's not prayer, folks. That is, those are words.
Just going through the motions.
Right. Those are words, and it's a race. It's not a prayer.
Or it's witchcraft, you know. It's like, I'm going to say this, you know, this incantation and get what I want, rather than I'm going to draw my heart to the Blessed Virgin, or allow me to enter into the life of Jesus, or to draw me to God.
Yeah.
If it doesn't have that relational component, and this is coming from a doctor of the church, we're not making this up.
And it doesn't mean that people's intent, you know,
or that they're bad people.
Right.
Yeah,
it always goes back to intent to me, to some degree. It's a lack of understanding of what prayer is. It's an immature prayer is what it is.
Right.
It's impoverished, I guess, is what it is. So we want to go deeper than that. We want to engage our hearts, our minds, to envision the Lord, to speak and pray to him, to invoke Our Lady to intercede for us, or Saint Joseph, or whatever saint it is.
Right.
It's a living relationship, as real as you and I speaking right at this moment. It's a relationship, and we need to have that at the center of our prayer.
That's right. Yeah. And folks, I just created a mini course, free course, out in apostolivae.org, apostolivae.org. And it's on mental prayer. So what it meant, which is what we're talking about. So, and it's based on my book, Into the Deep, which you can get at EWTN's religious catalog, or Sophia Institute, SpiritualDirection.com shop, or EWTN's religious catalog, either place. I wouldn't go to the evil empire of Amazon anymore, as they're canceling good Christian books there too. So we need to stay closer in the clan, if you will.
Yeah, support your Catholic organizations, good, faithful Catholic businesses. It's important.
So last question, Jeannie's asked a handful of them.
Okay.
What is the best type of prayer during desolation, and how to persevere in prayer through desolation? And what are your thoughts? What is the best kind of prayer in desolation, and how to persevere in desolation?
Sometimes the best prayer is help me.
Right. The one you can pray is the best
one
prayer.
You can pray.
Right.
The one that comes forth.
Right.
And we also have one online. Somebody posted a live question that I think is also connected to this. You know?
Oh, I forgot about that.
Right. And the question is, does prayer always need words? You know, do you always have to have words in your prayer? And so I go back to when you were in the hospital, when you had been placed on the ventilator with COVID. And I had just spoken to you. They had me say goodbye to you, basically. They said, would you like to speak to him before we put him on the ventilator? And we both knew that this could be a death sentence.
Yeah, 8 out of 10 people, in my case, 9 out of 10 die when they go on a ventilator. Yeah,
so I was very aware of that, you know, when I got to speak to you. And when I hung up, I have to be honest, my heart was crushed. You know, I was aching, I was hurting. I was fighting off any kind of despair from it. And so I came up here to our chapel, you know, and what I did was I laid down in front of the altar. I put my rosary in my hand. And somewhere between my tears and the rosary, there were moments where I just was at the Lord's feet.
Yeah.
There were no words. You know, my head was on his feet.
Yeah.
Like Mary Magdalene, just resting on him and just giving him my heart and surrendering to him, knowing, Lord, you know, if it's your will, save my husband. But if it's not your will, I surrender and I accept whatever you give. You know, you you have given me my husband, and you can have him if
Yeah.
it is your will to take him.
Yeah.
You know, and
Powerful.
that was so there were no words there, but that was, though I did pray those words, but in between those moments, it was just, Lord, I love you. We are yours. Do with us whatever you will. And that was it was silence. You know,
Yeah.
it was conveyed without words. And it was just my heart and my life, and placing that near to the Lord and giving it to him at the foot of the cross.
That's good stuff. Hey, this is Dan and Stephanie Burke with Divine Intimacy Radio, talking about prayer, questions and answers today. If you want more of this kind of content, of course, EWTN is replete with awesome content. You can also head out to SpiritualDirection.com, where all of our previous shows, you can find all of those out there, and series we did, like with Father Gallagher on discernment of spirits. And then also, if you're looking for a Catholic community, it's important during this time to join together with devout, on fire, faithful Catholics who are all in for the faith, or trying to be. Go to apostoliva.org, and there's all kinds of content, free content out there that we've produced, and we give free formation second and fourth Saturdays of the month, typically live online to people. Usually about 350 people show up from all corners, 44 countries, I think is last time I counted. So it's pretty cool to be with all those awesome humans.
So I want to say one more thing about prayer.
Oh, yeah.
Not needing words. There's also scripture that tells us that the Holy Spirit prays in us through groanings.
Oh, Romans 8. Yeah.
Romans 8. So I have experienced that, you know, at the depths of some agony. And in fact, it was at Rudebach in France, kneeling in front of Our Lady. And that prayer was given to me. And I say it was given to me because I did not initiate that prayer. And it was a prayer of groanings.
For a loved one.
For a loved one,
Yeah.
that I was surrendering at that altar. And she promises that she will hear us, you know, that she will intercede for us. That prayer had no words. And that was a prayer given. And we know that our prayers are given to us. They're from the Lord. The other is that tears, sometimes all we have is tears.
Yeah.
And as long as they're not leading to despair, that sorrow that we feel sometimes,
right,
that is also prayer, and it washes away our pains. The Lord uses it. It can have a lot of grace in it. We actually had somebody ask, I think at our last marriage retreat, is it okay to cry? And it was like, oh, heavens, yes.
Right.
Heavens, yes. The Lord gave us our tears. And sometimes that's the only prayer we have. And if that's it, then we give him our tears, right?
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right. So next question we have is from Jose, and he's asking, and this isn't directly related to prayer, but it's kind of, and I think it's the last question we'll do today. How do you read John of the Cross? And the answer is slowly and over and over and over again.
Right. But, my first word was slowly.
Right. So if you want to know the order to read John, either Spiritual Canticle or Living Flame of Love first, no doubt. Then the other one that you didn't read, one of the two, and then Ascent of Mount Carmel, and then Dark Night of the Soul. But that's the best order to read John. He also asked about,
don't start with Dark Night of the Soul.
No, do not. That's how you'll never want to read John again. Impact of God by Ain Matthews. If you just look up Impact of God, Matthews, you'll find
Isn't
that book.
That Union with God? It's not Impact of God.
No. Well, there's two.
Oh,
The one we brought to publication was called Union with God by Father Gabriel of St. Mary Magdalene.
Oh, okay. That's
which is a great book by Sophia Institute Press.
Okay.
That I would pick up if you want to understand John. And then he asked about St. Teresa of Avila's work. So that's easy because she wrote an autobiography, the book of her life, which we're actually going through in our community now. And then introductory text for St. Teresa of Avila, a great one, is Fire from Above. Or is it Fire from Within by Thomas Dubay? I think it's Fire from Within by Thomas Dubay.
Yeah.
And I'm fairly certain EWTN's religious catalog has that one. So those are some ways you can dig deeper into prayer in the interior life. Also, I teach a course, Foundations of Prayer and Union with God, at the Avila Institute. I mean, really, Avila Institute, SpiritualDirection.com, Apostolic VA, EWTN. I mean, treasure trove, endless treasure trove of spiritual support for you. God be praised. We get to do this every day, and we're out of time, or with our life, I should say.
Okay. Okay. So until next time, may the God of peace make you perfect in holiness. May he preserve you whole and entire, spirit, soul, and body, irreproachable at the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ.
Amen.